friends, today we're talking all about the Bugasphere. What is the Bugasphere? It is the first propulsion device, alien tech or reversed alien tech device actually found by civilians. I've watched everything on it, including the press release, and I have got a lot of details for you today. But that's not all. We also have to talk about free energy, what the government has, how to tell the difference between an alien device and a government device, and everything in between about propulsion. So let's get straight into it and get to the Bugasphere. So Buga Columbia is where it was found, which is why it's called the Bugasphere. Buga, buga, buga. But this guy Jose was out farming or just hanging out outside near his land, and he saw this and recorded this. This is his recording of this object flying around. All of these images and videos are from the Twitter, Bugasphere Twitter, and from Ashton, who is over the other stuff. It'll all be in the description. But so he sees this thing flying around, notices immediately like that it hits this power line, it zaps. Instead of falling to the ground, it like floats to the ground. And then he follows it and he goes over to pick it up. Now, after picking it up, he realizes like the grass that it was hovering around is dead, and he feels radiation poisoning. He lost his fingertips and he was getting sick. But he mentioned as well that when he picked it up, it was much lighter than he expected it to be. Okay, now this video here is of the second one that was found, I think the same day or the next day. It's a really much better video. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, just imagine this round sphere, and I'll go over the details of the front as we get into this. But there have been multiple sites of this, and I think on TikTok, if you even just do hashtag Bugasphere, and on Twitter, you'll see a ton of videos of people who have said they've seen something like this in the sky. So he gets this thing, he gets sick. He does not want to have this in his possession because he realizes it's something weird. He contacts his cousin who happens to work in like electromagnetism. He's a scientist. And he says, yo, I found this thing. Can you come get it? His cousin says, bet, I'll come get it. They're first cousins. Okay. So this guy is the first person to handle and do some experimentation on this device. And he is astounded and terrified because obviously if things like this have been discovered before by us, they have been taken by the government, and mostly things like this are found by the government. Okay. So he already knows he's in a shit show. He has to quarantine it for a while because it is heavily radiated. There's some energy coming off of it. And that is the first thing that they do is quarantine this device. Okay. Over time, as they're quarantining it, the energy, or what they now consider the gravitational force that was in the center of the device, and I'll show you that, it has slowed down and this thing is powered down. Okay. So when Jose originally picked it up, it was lighter. By the time it gets to this guy, it's gone up from, let's say, he said 2 kilograms to 6.7 to now 10. Okay, so it's gained in mass as the gravitational force has slowly disintegrated or just shut off, right? So that's the first crazy thing that they notice about this thing. But they can't really get into it. Like they can't figure out how to like do all of the different scientific analysis that they need to do. Another thing that they found was that the heat signature on it was different based on where it was on the ball. So in some places it was hotter, in some places it was cooler. So that is pretty much as far as they got. When they decided to contact Jaime, it's spelled like Jamie, Jaime or I, Jaime Musan, who is in the scientific community, the UFO researcher community, and they call him, and he immediately gets himself to Buga Columbia to look at this thing and to go over it. So I'm just going to describe this for the people on the podcast. So this is just, it's not giant. It's about the size of a basketball sphere. Okay. It is one unit. It looks like 2 halves if you see this part here, but I'm going to tell you more about the equator, they're calling it, or the seam along the edges. On the front, there is clearly some language we don't know, written in a circle around what looks like a microchip in the center. And along this circle are moons and triangles with circles in them. And they look like, based on what the press release says, that they were actually hand etched into the metal or the alloy that this ball is made of. Now, this ball had a protective layer on it that they cannot figure out or analyze, I think, what that is. But the things that they have found in this thing already, and this was captured on June 7th, 2025. Okay, this is what happens when civilians get things and they move it to the right people who could do something with it, because now it's put in a situation where no one can take it. When the last guy had it, and I'm going to tell you his name. Now, I, for the life of me, cannot find this man's name, but here's what he looks like. And this is the cool thing. Do you know how many people contacted him and found out about this in the 2 months he had it, offering him money? June is around the time I think he got it to Jaime. So before that, I think it was initially actually discovered by March. If I said June, June is when Jaime got it. But this guy said that people have offered him money. Some people said it was fake. Some people said it was theirs, government entities, multiples though, not the same one. He's gotten threats. So that's what made him exchange it. Now, he could have taken this and done like every other scientist who has discovered or, tried to create a version or a free energy device, which has happened multiple times. There are so many who have passed. Their labs get broken into, their families get threatened, and all of this happens if they try to put out this free energy. And how the government usually finds out about this with these people is that they try to get a patent. And there is literally a government patent affiliation where they're looking through the patents, and anything that says free energy is not going to get patented. They're going to take your stuff because they do not want us to have it, because then it would literally ruin the economy. Okay. So if you watch the latest Dr. Greer, Steven Greer's latest documentary on free energy devices, he goes over the history and how he calls it the lost century. That's the name of the documentary. You should watch it. We have had this energy, or at least some idea about this energy since Roswell. Okay. And they call it the lost decade because we are behind on where we should be in energy, and we should be participating in free energy, and they have been literally sequestering it and keeping it away from us and reverse engineering craft that they may have shot down. Some say that the aliens sacrificed and gave it to them. Who knows? All we know is that it is very well known now, if you've watched anything about the disclosure that's happening in government, that private organizations hired by the Pentagon have these high energy devices, and they refuse to let them go. And they do not allow the general public to partake. Okay. So the idea that this could be real, and that now, the thing about Dr. Steven Greer is saying the best way to put this out is to free resource it and give the information to everyone, and people can create whatever they want to create and open the market up instead of trying to get greedy by making all the money, just as, the Tesla and literally whoever owns the energy now, right? I cannot think of this man's name either, but there's a reason we don't have free energy, because Tesla had this figured out. And I'm going to go more into Tesla in this as well. Tesla had this figured out, but at that time when they were trying to decide which way they were going to go with energy, it wasn't JP Morgan, but maybe it was. They did not want to have free energy, guys. So this information has been kept on the low. Okay, so let's get to the good stuff. This is a close-up shot of the sphere, all right? Clearly, that looks like a microchip situation on the outside. And we have these hand-etched symbols. Now, I might have to do an update on this, because this season of Cosmic Disclosure, which is a show on Gaia, has a Green Beret, I believe, who is in the, involved in this alien tech. And he describes being in an underground facility where he saw this oddly shaped metallic-esque device. It was kind of flat. All right. He said that as he walked by it, it practically connected with him, as in it noticed him looking and lit up. And above the screen, literally 3D, okay, these inky black symbols start to appear in random orders and are changing in front of him. And he doesn't know if the other two guys in this underground facility can see this. But if you know anything about listening to these military guys who, when they talk about these experiences, you don't ask a lot of questions there, because you will be shot. All right. You get threatened before you even get into the room. All right. So At the time, he wrote down what some of these symbols were. And at this point, they're saying about 5 of these are the exact same symbols. I saw some of the symbols, the triangles. If you're listening again on the podcast, you've got this microchip situation in the center, but around that circumference, you've got these a triangle. One looks like the Pisces fish. You've got these etches that look like they might be a language. He wrote some of these. So, and I've got some more information here about some of these images and these symbols, which have been found on other things dug up in Mexico. Okay. So first of all, these red or orange dots you see on that microchip, okay, all of those are fiber optic cables, the size of a piece of freaking hair, okay? Thousands of tiny little microfiber cables are interlaid throughout this entire sphere in a way we would never been able to do. And here's the crazy thing about that. If you know anything about electricity, with a fiber optic cable, let's say you've got one long line, all right? The energy from this side, from the left side of the line is communicating to get to the right side of the line. And that's the line of energy that you've got. These are tiny little stumps that hold more power than we've ever realized, and they just don't work the same way our fiber optic cables work. They're stacked on top of each other, and they have been able to look at these and determine that there are some that can read infrared light, ultraviolet light, is communicating with the satellite, is communicating with another place. So all of these thousands of different things can see every single portion or essence of our being, okay? It also has the ability to direct itself and fly around. There ain't no being is inside of this ball. What the coolest thing about it is that it's like ancient tech. They figured out that the most likely way that this sphere was created was like in a casting system. Now, again, I told you that it looked like a seam. Let's go there next. Now, that seam that you see along the edge, which would usually say to me, this is not alien tech, because that's something we're going to cover next, but it's all about how they create these devices. But the seam here is not actually a seam at all. Those are all little individual cameras made with those fiber optics that, again, are the size of a freaking piece of hair. They're so tiny. They use the tiniest little microscope. They thought it was debris, guys, and it is etched and interlaid throughout the metal. We don't know how to do that. If you see this image on the bottom here, there's an image of just they did x-rays and CT scans, everything that they could do on this ball. You see those lights inside the ball that look like stars? Those are actually the cables that run this ball. But the cables are only on the surface of this ball, this outer shell. The interior of the ball is absolutely hollow and absolutely one piece, okay? One whole entire piece. And I'm going to show you that next, because they have seen inside. They have not cracked it open. Jaime said that over his dead body, will you open this? But they have done x-ray scans on the inside. I'm going to show you those. I'm saying x-ray. I think there's some sort of way to look at this. It's not technically x-ray, but they have seen through it. Okay, so this is the inside of the device. They don't really know what this is. Okay, so one weird thing about it is that this is obviously the one above me is like a rendered image. The ones to the right or left of me, I don't know, the ones next to me are actually the device. So how this works is just like the Tesla coil, which is at the top, okay? It's like it balloons the energy up, it wraps around the inside of this metal base, and then it pulls it in, and this is how the force works. And what they've discovered is that what we initially thought about alien tech or anything with propulsion energy that uses that doesn't expel toxins, okay? What they thought it was that it was anti-gravitic, which we'll cover when I show you the next videos for another device. But what they've noticed here is that it's static electricity. So this ball, if you see in the videos, is spinning at a rapid rate. And they have discovered that if they spin this ball, this is the next step that they're going to do. They think they can get it to levitate, okay? And it's going to light up. But it's a spin that creates this force that then what it does is it takes in less energy than it puts out, which standard science says is not possible. that the way you get energy is energy in, energy out, same input, same output, maybe even more input and less output. But actually, what scientists have been looking for is a way to pull energy. And it turns out they're pulling the static from the air, pull energy in, and you end up with putting in 1 to 2% and putting out 100. All right. And it propels itself and it uses more than it needs. Now, Jaime had scientists come in to talk more about this ball, and there's a couple of things that they recognize, and you can kind of see it here, but let's explain it further. Remember I told you that the heat signature on the ball was different in different locations? Well, the north side of this ball has more alloy or more density than the south side of this ball, and the right and the left side have a different one. So it kind of like forces itself in one direction, all right, which is how the spin happens. The second thing to note is like there's an electrical there is this understanding about the propulsion inside of it being like the ball is almost like falling into place. Okay. And the way that they best discussed this to me was when they talked about spiders and how they fly. Okay. So let's talk about that. Okay. So when a spider wants to go from here to there and there is far, they don't walk. They shoot out, they attach themselves with one web down to whatever they're fixed on, right? And then they shoot out these webs from their butts, but only a little bit. And then those webs have a negative mass, and the air has a negative charge, and the air has a positive charge. And the negative charge allows them to float, and they almost float like that ball where they glide and like toss through the air. And the momentum of the negative charge going against the momentum of the positive charge is like it's like almost like if you imagined, how do I put this? So it's almost like the heavy part is leading and it's falling into, but being held buoyant by this electrical charge. And like they're dancing together in a form of movement to move him to where he needs to go. Now, take some time to look at this video if you're watching, and you will see what has been allegedly found and discovered that matches up with what they think or who they think made this Bugasphere. So there are skulls and pottery pieces and parts of things that have matching symbols, matching styles, chips, all of that. Then they are trying to say that this is clearly from some civilization that either used to live here or is around and watching us or something. Okay. Now, take some time to look at this video if you're watching. And now there are a couple more cool things about this ball. One, the alloy that's on the ball is not one density and one thickness. They're actually individual layers that are different throughout each section. So there are layers and layers and layers and layers and layers and layers of metal. And they think zinc, silica, and some of it is unknown for, I think, the outer coating of this. But that is how it's created. So imagine someone putting a metal shell on a metal shell on a metal shell on a metal shell. Now, I showed you the video of the other gentleman who saw this flying orb. And I didn't see any sketches on that one. So I believe, this is my personal opinion, that whomever let this ball drop put those sketches on that ball for a reason. Now, within the sketches of the moon, all of that is full of fiber optic cables. There is no part of this thing that does not have technology in it. The whole thing does. It's fed into these sections, which allow it to move left, right, up, down, allow us to capture everything from us. And we have been watched. Okay. I don't know why it's been seen though, because I'm going to show you something next. And this is where we have to determine if this is alien tech or government tech. And then I'm going to tell you the difference between the two and you decide for yourself. Okay, so now that brings me to my next video. Now, y'all remember that Malaysian airline flight that happened where that plane just disappeared? I happened to watch that. It just came on after I was watching the initial video about the Bugasphere. There are two on Gaia. This guy came on George Norrie's show, and he is a nerd for the Malaysian airline flight, and he had a lot to say about it. So we got to talk about that because these seem too similar to me to not talk about. Okay, so I don't remember all of the details about this flight because it happened in 2014, but after it happened, some things happened that made it seem like it was a mysterious circumstance as to how this flight may have disappeared. And this young man became inspired by it and has been investigating it ever since. Now, obviously, people think he's crazy. People don't agree with him, yada, 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 but we are here for the juice. All right, so let's squeeze it. All right, so first of all, 4 days after this flight goes missing, someone leaks videos, these two videos that you see, showing this flight in action. And what do you notice in these videos but round orbs around this plane? Okay, now this plane was going from, I think, it was going from the United States all the way to China, and 247 souls were on board, or 248. And he has said that 20 of them were scientists working on nanotechnology and potentially taking it to China, and somebody may have made this disappear so that they did not make it there. Okay, I just want to give you the background here. Now, what they do not know is whose orbs are these and why are they following this plane. Now, I got to tell you, the technology that we have on this planet now, they don't tell us everything, but what is being used currently is pretty outstanding. So everything is watched. These are satellite-esque images. But here's the difference. Everything is watched and put on like a back-end camera, unless they need the footage. And it's very clear that someone was capturing this plane and this plane only, whoever this whistleblower was, to let us know that something else went down. Okay. Now, his conclusion was that it's the United States trying to send a threat to China to say, we have ancient technology, we have AI technology, we have alien technology, don't mess with us. But look at this video, and we have to talk about the spheres in this video, and I'm going to tell you all the details on them. Their size is completely different. The way they move is a little bit different. And we don't know if this is alien tech or government tech. Now, there are many reasons that this flight may have disappeared. One of them, they said, is that the way that you see the explosion that is not in this video, so I'm not trying to traumatize people, but there is clearly maybe a lithium battery fire on board. So they were already scattered. Okay. As they're trying to land this plane somewhere safely, they don't see that this is happening at the same time. And I'm going to tell you why. So all of this stuff that's happening on the outside of the plane, nobody on the inside of the plane can see this. Just putting the plane on the screen, I need you to see this from the beginning to the end. Now, first thing I want you to notice is that this sucker is moving these balls are moving in perfect formation around this plane. Okay, that's the first thing I want you to notice. Second thing I want you to notice is how they're glowing. Okay, and I'm going to zoom in on some parts of this so that you can see this a little bit better, but notice the glow. Third thing you need to notice if you're watching this and not looking on the pod and listening on the podcast is look at the waves that are being made from the propulsion. They look like what could be considered smoke or vapor or some sort of force moving the air, but that's not what's happening here. And we have to get into every little piece of this bit of information. Okay. And while you watch this video, you will see that what you don't see here and what you may have seen in the first video is that these things come from like clouds, almost like someone ejected them and was hidden in the background and pushed these things out towards this specific plane on purpose. All right. So it follows them, and this plane is turning, guys. It's not in a straight line because it's trying to land. And that smoke is the lithium battery smoke that they think, because as the air exhaust try to push the smoke out, it's coming out of everything. But look at that perfect formation for a second before we move on from here. Okay, so the first piece of information that's going to blow your mind is that you cannot see this with your naked eye. If you see those little light balls that you see in the other video, they can't see that. It's a special kind of camera. The camera can catch it. Your eyes cannot, because it is ultraviolet light. That is what they said is coming from this charge. And this guys who did this, they had scientists looking into this. Now, the second thing you will notice is inside these little balls is kind of a yellowish, greenish. And this camera is an ultraviolet light, which is why you can see this. And this was, again, a leaked image. Okay, remember that. So the inside of that ball, they think the lit part, like that green part, is electron. Okay, they think that they have split an atom. The electron is now separate from the proton. Okay, so you've got a negative charge and a positive charge. And this negative charge is back, while this positive charge is what's pushing it forward. Again, it's falling into place. Okay. And he said that the sphere, this smoke that you see, or it's not smoke. Again, it's an ultraviolet light. That is actually this device bending space-time in front of it and falling into this spiral, okay, and pushing itself. And that's where the momentum comes from. So it's not smoke behind the ball. It's like the ball is following this pattern of smoke. I'm going to call it smoke because that's what it looks like, even though it's not. This ball is following the pattern of it, and it's kind of like rotating in that direction. So now I'm going to go back to this video just so we can switch it up. Now, so you've got these perfect formated balls going around this object, and boop, it goes somewhere and can't nobody find it. It literally disappears, which is just crazy to think about. Okay, crazy to think about. But he thinks this one is government tech, and I'm going to tell you the difference between the two. Okay, so there are two forms of anti-propulsion. Anti-gravitic might not be the same as electromagnetic. One is using the electromagnetic energy that is in the air, because potential energy is with the light intermingled together, okay? And it's pulling from the potential charge within the environment to propel itself, which is an unlimited resource of power that we have given to us by the universe. The other is literally splitting, biolocating space and time, and almost creating a wormhole or bending everything to your will. Okay? These are supposed to be 20 feet across. That's not a basketball size. These things are huge. All right? So the size, the mass, and seams are the three ways we're supposed to know that it's government tech. And potentially because governments use the bending the force instead of the electromagnetic force from the spin. Okay? Those are the two ways that we would know. And that is what we're up against right now, is that most of the UFOs that we know about in the public, if it ends up on mass media, it's probably not from ET. It is from the government. The Tic Tacs that we saw in the New York Times, government. The ones over Phoenix Lights, government. There are days where people can predict, if they live in the area, the day that the government will be testing flights, and they are using this UFO technology. And Dr. Steven Greer believes that they are the ones who abduct people to threaten them and pretend to be alien. All right. Why is this important right now? There's a number of major reasons this is important. We are at a point where free energy is going to have to be the next main discussion. I'm not going to talk to you about the power grid and how inefficient it is and how it's not working, and how at some point our society is going to reach a cap because they are using petroleum as if it's gold and trying to strip the resources from this planet. And every single thing on this planet, including solar panels and wind tunnels, requires so much more energy for output. And then the solar panels chip, and then they are stuck on the earth. There's a smarter system than this, and it has been gifted to us. And we have taken, as a society, our government, our private contractors, the people who run this country and make all the money off of this world, country, world, everything, do not want this to come out, but it is going to come out, and is going to either be forced to come out through something catastrophic happening on the planet, or we are going to have to force it out as an individual people. Okay? We have been duped. We have been duped. Because they act like this stuff doesn't exist, and they know that it does. And I have been saying for a long time that we have had free energy. We are interstellar travelers. We literally trade with intergalactic societies. There are individuals living on these other bases on the moon and on Mars. I got to talk to you. I'm not talking to you about the 30 and backs and 15 and backs and the 20 and backs, which is when they literally kidnap people and then bring them back to a time and a space after using them as pawn in their game for 30 years and secret military operations. All of this sounds absolutely nuts. And there are so many examples of it that you cannot deny it once you hear it. When there's 1,000 people coming out saying all of this stuff, then you're just crazy if you want to keep believing something else. But this is where we're going next. You need to watch the last decade because you need to see how they treat an individual who tries to put out free energy. They literally ruin their lives. And unless someone is brave enough, like these gentlemen are, who are calling this literally the people's, device, and they start holding on to these things and putting them out into the public in a smarter way than trying to finance off of them, we are going to stay stuck. Now, when they did this press conference, they went into the entire scientific deep breakdown that they could, and they are still putting out information as we speak. This is just the beginning of something. And as this happens, I'm hoping that the really intelligent people on this planet who love to do stuff like this are taking notes and trying to create something that will better this world. So I find this information to be compelling. I find that the fact that all three of them came out boom, boom, boom at the same time to be a really good synchronicity advice, the synchronistic situation. And then I believe that we are headed in that direction if we can all put momentum behind it with our thoughts. So I don't know how you feel about this. You might think both of them are a hoax, but at this point, I think, I'm sorry to have to say this to you, but you kind of need to check your belief system because, one, the government is now admitted openly to having these devices, to capturing these devices, and to reverse engineering these devices, and have gotten very far with them. They have also mentioned that they have captured alien bodies, probably because they shot them down from space. How? They use something like a sound wave to throw off their signals. Three, there are so many CIA files at this point that have been declassified that say this information. And you can say, well, it's the CIA. How can you trust them? It's not. The CIA hires incredibly intelligent individuals and then tries to own them. The CIA is not a person. It's an entity or a system of it's a system. It's not even an entity. It's a system. Okay. The individuals within that system, some of them, they're not so great. Some of them, they got wrapped up in something they didn't even know that they were getting in. And some of them just got paid because it's private contractor work. And you can be paid by a government fund and not be like that government. All right. So everything that you read about this in any mass media is going to use the word hoax. The first thing that I saw when I put in Bugasphere on Google said that it was a mythical device. And I'm like, but there's a picture of it right here. You could at least say, we don't know if this is real or not, but they are going to tell you it is a certain thing that it is not. Let's talk a little bit about the false flag of it all. The point that they are trying to make, what the government, what the powers that be, ain't nobody in charge. I just want to say this for a second. We think that there is this secret covert group trying to take over. And I'm telling you that there are tiny little fractions of groups. There's not one. And none of these people are in charge. They just utilize and take advantage of a system that allows them to get away with this stuff based on how it's built. All right. Stop giving them so much power. When you give them the power, it literally boosts them up. You say that they are so much more powerful, that they have all of this control. They don't have any control. They are literally using the system that was created and bending the rules and getting around it. Okay, that's it. Nothing more, nothing less. But everybody has to ascend, even them. So understand for a minute that stop giving these people your power. That's just what I want to say with that, because I'm just over it. All right. That's the first thing. They aren't great. They are evil. Right. But the way that things have been built has powered them up. And that's not their fault. That's the system's fault. All right. They took advantage of something that was already there. But they are maniacal, and they are they're crazy, okay? And they want to take over the world. They want to be in control of this place. They want to have dominion over what happens here, regardless of what each of us think, okay? And they think that they know better than we do, all right? So their plan is to stage a false alien invasion. And everything you read in mass media now is going to be talking about how it's a security threat. And that is the entire way that they are going to push the alien agenda, is going to go in that direction. So anything you read in a major news source, and it's all over the place, is there. Look at the words, read them, listen to how the people talk. It's very repetitive. They have a script, and they know exactly what they're supposed to say because they have been paid to say it. And they are going to make it seem like these these beings are a threat to our nation and that they have to take them down. And we're going to go into some alien war. And then through subversion and fear, they are going to try to bring people together. And that ain't how it's supposed to go down. Okay. So simultaneously, while this is happening, you too could be having your own experiences with benevolent ETs who are here to help and serve and are watching us and trying to help us. Okay. And you can, if you want to know more about that, I'll talk about that in another video. But that's where you have to go, because just like they say, the revolution will not be televised. Individual people will have their own contact experience. Individuals, those individuals who have these contact experiences, their minds are changed. Okay. And that is how this information is going to come out. Stop looking to the government, the Disclosure Project, all of that to give you information. I wouldn't use any of that as a resource. I would go within, because there are beings out here who are looking to connect with you, to actually tell you their story on their own. I'm going to end this talking about extraterrestrial racism. There are no things as the reptilians are bad and the mantis are good and the grays are bad and the zeta reticuli and the... No. Why? That's like saying all white people are bad. I know some people are like, well, that's not true. Okay. Each individual consciousness has the right to be only them. And we are all absolutely divinely unique. While there are individuals and groups, just like on planet Earth, that may or may not have the Earth and individual people as their highest priority, that exists everywhere in the cosmos, okay? Within this version of reality where there are beings that are physical and are going through their own version of evolution. Some of them are below us, some of them are above us. At the same time, all of them came from the exact same source. And who are you to deny a fractal of light that source placed on this earth? Okay. You're supposed to send them love. If you judge them, if you are scared of them, if you fear them, you give them power. If you judge them, you are actually looking at the judgment within yourself and you are saying you don't deserve to exist, but I do. And in reality, the only way to heal is with love. And you're supposed to be sending unconditional love to even the worst beings because they are in pain, which is why they're the worst. Okay. So the maniacs of the world, the people who think that they rule the world, the crazy governmental systems, all those people are in pain. I know on the surface, it does not seem like that. But at the same time, the way that this avatar and this experience works is if you fall away from source, you are more isolated and alone. As you come towards source, you are more together and in unity. And that's just the way that the whole thing works. On purpose. That's why it always is going to end up being love in the end, because all of these are just rapid, radical experiences of not love, which are from the love packet, which is why love is more powerful. Okay. We have to do this out of love. We have to change the system with love. We cannot fight it because fight is not love. It's the absence of love. The only thing that we have the power to do right now is to create with love the actual reality we want to experience and to hold a position in our minds of intent that we are ready for free energy, that we are ready for a clean world, that we are ready to heal Mother Earth, that we are ready to step into this next version of reality and leave this garbage behind. But if you want to leave this garbage behind, you're going to have to untangle yourself from it. Where are you? Where in you are you seeing the world from a negative place all the time? I see this stuff and sometimes I'm like, ugh, this place is trash. I'm never coming back. Okay. But if I keep thinking like that, then I experience trash and I participate in making it trash for you. So I'm sorry. Instead, I have to hold the highest ideal for the outcome that I want to experience, with the remembrance that source has always already transformed it to love, which is why you can have the highest experience with everything or the lowest experience with everything. Okay. that is all that I have to say today about this subject. As more information comes out, I will try to put an update. I've been trying to keep up. Y'all, I had to start a Twitter account just to get this information because ain't no websites, ain't no nothing. These people are out here riffing on the internet. All right. So I did have to have a shadow Twitter that I will never be active on, but I can now pull content from when absolutely necessary. If you like this video, please like, subscribe. Thank you for watching it. If you got this far, this is Candace with Lightworker Radio, channel for the channelers.